Thanks for
Okay.
checking. It's here. Yeah.
Okay. Today I am joined by Kathy Doering, and Kathy is, I guess I'll call you the chaplain, or would you like me to call you our spiritual advisor for SLC?
Spiritual support chaplain, whatever
Okay,
makes sense.
spiritual support. And Kathy and I have just met, but she plays an interesting role here at the college that we're going to talk a bit about. So this is the first time that we're, as part of these conversations, going to be talking to someone who is not, an SLC staff member and international. And so we're going to be bridging out and talking a little bit more to other people who are either working at the college in support of students. And we'll also be talking to students. So we're going to be kind of broadening out these conversations so we can get to know lots and lots of different people who work in our community. So welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Now, the first question I have for you is just for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and how your background has prepared you for this position that you have here at St. Lawrence College.
Amazing. So I guess I started my preparation at a very young age as a toddler, running around the halls of St. Lawrence College because my dad worked here his whole career. And I used to come and sit on Santa's lap at the Christmas parties and go up to the business department and type on weird, not quite typewriters, but some kind of strange computery punching holes in cards machine. Anyway, I don't really know what that was, but so I grew up spending a lot of time on the campus, longtime Kingstonian. My background, I trained as a teacher. I have a Bachelor of Education, and then I got a Master of Education in counseling. And my husband, he is a pastor, and so I've been working alongside him in church ministry for about 25 years, and I've worked with youth. I've done a lot of youth ministry and ministry to young adults. And before I had my children, I worked at Queen's at the School of English, actually. Mm-hmm. And I coordinated all the non-academic programming. So I got to work with all international students from all over the world. And I got to go to New York City with students and just help them to learn about the culture and the language here in Canada. So I feel like it's been a good preparation, actually, to be joining the team at St. Lawrence.
Okay. So what are the types of what's a typical sort of day look like for you when you're, talking to students or when you're talking to student leaders? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So so I provide spiritual support. So we think of that as sort of religion, but it's actually it goes much deeper than that. Your spirituality is really about identity, meaning, and purpose. It's about what's the point of my life. It's sort of the hub of the wheel of identity. So we might go to mosque or church or practice our religion, whatever that looks like. And that's something we do, but our spirituality is really our identity and who we are. So I do talks for classes on spiritual resilience. I do workshops around that. And then I run small groups. So this year, especially with COVID, I advertised a call to students that wanted to join a small group. So we have 3 different types of small groups this year. One is a friendship huddle. So for students just wanting to spend time with one another and meet people in this crazy time. We also run big question huddles, a chance to just be like, what do I think? What do I believe? I know what I grew up with, but I'm asking questions. And we talk about anything and everything in a big question huddle. And then we have faith-based huddles, which so far have been Christian-based huddles. But if I get a group of Muslim students that wanted to huddle together, I could set that up as well. So those are the 3 types of huddles. And other years we've had a handful of huddles. This year, I think I've got like almost 45 students. Huddles are about 4 people, 5 at the very, very, very most. So I think we've got almost 10 in Cornwall and Kingston. I don't have any Brockville yet. Okay. But so that's sort of, I do a lot of one-on-one meetings with students just to encourage them. We talk about literally anything and everything. Mm-hmm. And just walking alongside students through their time here. And counseling is amazing for short-term intervention, right? They typically do 6 sessions, whereas I walk along with students as long as they're at the college. So it's more about building community, safe community where students can and build community throughout time at the That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's, I mean, and it's fantastic that, the work that you're doing is, um, it's a completely safe space for students in terms of them, you know, just really reaching out and wanting to be part of the conversations that you're having, and to be in community with not just you, but the communities that you build as you're talking with groups of students. So that's really interesting. So my second question is about the focus that the college has right now on developing this kind of global mindset as a college community. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you can share your perspective on that, and how, as members of the SLC community, we might be able to develop this mindset of the broader world around us. You talked about that sense of self and that sense of identity. So what's your perspective on that, Kathy?
I'm really glad you asked, Shelley. I have a lot of strong feelings about this topic. I kind of like to think of myself as an honorary member of your department, actually, because I work with a huge number of international students, and emerging adults are actually 3 times more likely. Internationals coming to Kingston, for example, are 3 times more likely to practice a religion and attend church or mosque or some sort of a religious event at least once a month in Canada than their counterparts their age. So I've had a lot of engagement with international students. And the other cool thing about my position, running small groups, is it's an amazing chance for internationals to meet domestic students and vice versa. So most of my huddles are a mix of domestics and internationals, and we go deep. Like, we keep it real. It's a chance to forge and develop really good, real relationships with people from a very different background as you. So I think what it's done for me personally, working with a number of international students in the years that I've, like the last 3 especially, I think we desperately need to embrace the incredible privilege that we have at St. Lawrence College to be able to draw together, have our own United Nations, and people who are interested in traveling and learning about the world. We've got them coming to us as a domestic who has not done a ton of traveling. So first of all, I think it's appreciating the opportunity we have. We're in a day that's becoming very divisive, and the culture is very divisive, and we all want to return to our little camps and with like-minded people who we can relate to, and we're threatened very easily by one another. And here we have on our campuses in Ontario the opportunity to break those walls down, to do small groups together, to do classes and group work together, to live together. What an incredible opportunity. So I feel like that attitude first is really critical, to be open to that, and then to be willing to learn about that. I know one incredible resource, for example, is a book called The Culture Map by Erin Meyer. And I think we often want to be, I just want to teach the student and see their personality. We don't want to talk about culture because it sounds kind of like stereotyping, or it feels a bit like that. I don't want to judge and make generalizations, but really, if we don't look at culture, we're only looking at everything through our own cultural bias and perspective. So for example, the Culture Map book is really good because it sort of talks about, here's one example. It looks at 8 different ways that we differ from nation to nation. And one of them is how we view time. Do we view time in a rigid manner, or are we flexible with how we view time? Depending where our students are coming from, a class starting at 8:30 is going to be looked at differently. How we and talk to each other and offer correction. Some nations really emphasize the negative strongly and soften the positive. Some really emphasize the positive and gently say the negative. Depending on your cultural framework, how you interpret the results that you're being given is going to be really different. So it's looking at what's my cultural bias, and what are the people in my class, what's their bias, and then being able to get those assumptions out of the way and then allow personality to shine through in that. So anyway, I just think being educated about culture is really an important thing that we can do, and being open and understanding the incredible privilege that we have to be all together, people from all over the earth in one place together. I think it's an incredible opportunity.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I think, one of the interesting parts about having a global mindset is that it also allows you, even if, like you say, you're someone who is born and bred in this area, and whether you've traveled a lot or not, and sometimes, that's not necessarily a cultural experience,
That's
it still
right.
kind of allows you to sort of I mean, you can really look at your own culture. You know, you
Absolutely.
know, I know that in my family and the way that I grew up, you know, we have certain cultural things that have always just been a part of who we are. And every family and every area has those same types of ingrained kind of cultural perspectives. So it's a really important one. So the last thing I want to ask you about is, you know, you do talk with this very wide variety of students at the
Yes.
college, and based on these interactions, what might be your advice or your reflections as how we as staff can best support students? So that would be, you know, all the types of students that you're interacting with, Kathy. What
Yeah.
advice could you give us?
I think especially in these days, I mean, we have a crisis of mental health that precedes COVID. For this generation, we're looking at suicide rates like never before, anxiety and depression like we've not seen in a generation. And I think to teach the whole student is one important piece, to acknowledge the spiritual health, physical health, mental health, intellectual health. You know, and I think we're really looking at that, looking at wellness at St. Lawrence in the last couple of years, having that wellness group formed, to really start to value that. And I think having a teacher that you feel like really sees you as a human and not just as a brain, I think goes a long way for individual students. So that's my wellness plug. The other thing I would say, especially around culture and about different international experiences that we all bring from our backgrounds, is be curious, ask questions, be willing to learn, and say, you know, when I say 8:30, in the way I was raised, 8:30 means 8:30. How about you? And having those conversations. Or I notice that when we have a conversation, you don't jump in like I do. I feel like I'm always interrupting you and you don't talk as much. Well, that's a cultural thing. Like in Asian countries, you do not speak over top of someone. And so someone might appear really quiet and shy, but it's actually that they just, if that's really rude, like you do not speak unless there's a couple sentences or seconds to take a breath and you jump in. So just asking questions about one another and being curious and having a curious mindset, I feel like, and seeing the whole student, I feel like are really, really valuable things for us as a safe, healthy community at St. Lawrence.
Wise words. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It was really, really great to get to know you a little bit. And I think this probably will be the start of many times that you and I talk about your reflections and how we can help all our students succeed and how we can build our global community. So thank you very much.
I love it. Here's the last thing. Do I have time
Yeah.
for one more quick comment?
Yeah.
I think we are one of the only community colleges that has someone in my role of spiritual support, chaplain. And as I've said, a lot of students internationally come to St. Lawrence from a strong spiritual background. One of my jobs is to connect them with a local community if they do wish to practice their religion. And the thing that breaks my heart is when it's their last semester and they discover me and say, oh, I wish I'd known you were here. So please get the word out to international students that St. Lawrence does have support for them to be able to grow in their faith or learn or ask questions or receive that kind of spiritual care while they're at St. Lawrence, because it's a bit of a special thing that we have it to offer. That's all.
Great.
That's my plug.
All right. Well, thanks again, Kathy. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Shelley.